Hey everyone, and welcome to our C++ tutorial on do-while loops. So as you can see, I have the code from our previous tutorial pulled up, and I have our while loop still written here. If this is unfamiliar, you should go back to our previous tutorial and watch the while loop tutorial. So our do-while loop is very similar to a while loop. In fact, it does the same basic operations. A do-while loop just executes at least one time. So if our condition here starts off false, so if I said that our counter needs to be greater than our end number, if I ran this while loop would not execute. So I can do that now. I'll compile our program, and when I run it, you can see it didn't print out counter and stuff. It just ended the loop. It ended the loop because this expression was false. Now, that's where a do-while loop is kind of useful, because a do-while loop, which looks like this, it will run at least one time before evaluating our condition. So if we take the same instructions, and I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to paste them down here. I'm going to take our condition. So we just saw that this condition, which is a Boolean expression, this condition didn't print anything out before. You see? So if we do this same thing, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out our while loop and just leave our do-while loop. So I'm going to compile our test program. I'll run our executable. You can see our counter ran one time. It's because a do-while loop will run at least once before evaluating its condition. So it's kind of flipped, right? Whereas the while loop will evaluate the condition and then run. The do-while loop runs and then evaluates the condition. This is useful for instances where you need your instructions to execute at least one time. So do-while loop is fairly useful. Besides that, everything else is the same. We have our condition here, which is evaluated after the loop runs, and it basically checks to see, oh, is this true? If it's true, we will execute our instructions between these two curly braces again. If it is false, then we will not execute our instructions. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to run our original logic with our do-while loop. So I'll compile this now. We'll run it, and you can see we have the same output, right? So if you remember in our previous tutorial, we had our while loop, and it printed out this exact same thing, and then end loop, which is our instruction here. So what's happening here is very similar to a while loop, but the condition is just checked afterwards. So we execute our instruction initially, then we check, is counter less than or equal to our end number? Counter is set to 0, so it is. So we execute the loop again. We do another iteration through our instructions. Is counter less than or equal to end number again? Yes, it is, because it would be at 1 at this point. So we execute it again and again and again until we get to 50. So we print out, okay, this is 50. We increment it to 51, and then we check our condition. If this evaluates to false, so we exit our loop and we move on to our next instruction, which says end of loop. Okay, awesome. So that's kind of like the broad strokes of the do-while loop. Very similar to a while loop, except the condition is checked after the instructions execute. So the instructions will always execute at least one time with a do-while loop.